I'm grateful to Gerard and Diez and David as the CEO of SIAS to invite me again to speak on a topic that is very dear to my heart, which is how we're going to make boards better. And the reason we want to make boards better is so that we can make charities better. We want to make charities better because we need to provide better services to the beneficiaries. And I always keep that in mind, that this is not an end unto itself. We don't want just better boards for the sake of better boards. We want better boards because we're here to serve, and we're here to serve our beneficiaries. So what happens in your typical sort of storyline goes like this. The board hires the CEO, and 6 months, 12 months later, that CEO is no longer there. And so the question then becomes, what happened? Was it the board or was it the CEO? And of course, if you ask the CEO, it was the board. And if you ask the board, it was the CEO. The truth lies somewhere in the middle, as is often the case. So what I want to sort of talk about is in that context, in the context of how do we create organizations that are stronger? How do we create organizations that can deliver the type of service that all of our beneficiaries should expect? This is supposed to work? Oh, yes. It is working over there. Thank you. Okay. So, few things, just to give the context of what we're trying to figure out. We've all heard the economics of it, but I need to tell you what it looks like as we try to build capability and capacity. Reality. As of right now, we don't have enough social workers. As of right now, we don't have enough therapists. And last time I checked, there's going to be a new demand on psychologists, and we don't think we have enough. That is likely to remain. And it's likely to remain for a simple reason. The needs of beneficiaries are growing faster than our ability to produce professionals. The needs are growing faster because mainly the aging of the population, but it's not the only factor. We also have the complexity of interracial marriages and the complexity of more stress on family. Divorce rates are still rising. All of those things are creating greater needs. And those are growing at a rate that is faster than our ability to staff. Our ability to staff grows with the population at about 1%. But the needs are growing at 6–8%, depending on which number you're looking at. Because of that, we have to figure out how we're going to do the work differently. Because of that, there are things that we're going to have to figure out. Minister Fu talked this morning about digital disruption. It is more than that. It is our ability also to embrace technology. And she talked about Technology 101. We need to move faster than Technology 101 is my belief, because we're going to have to find ways to innovate to deliver services that require less resources. There's just not enough people. And that basically covers the idea that as an organization, we need to do more. Beyond that is the idea that we have about the social service and the way we see the future and how we're going to get ready. And we see it in three ways. One, how do we empower more families and communities? Also, how do we create more caring and collaborative ecosystems? But the second one, this second tranche, is the one I'm going to focus on, is the idea of having effective social purpose entities or social service agencies that can deliver quality, innovative, and sustainable solutions. That is the role of the board. And let me tell you how that works. We've done some research. And we've done some research of what exactly is it that it takes to deliver on quality. Now, why quality? We've looked at many ways in which we can figure out what is the output of, this morning we were talking about output or activity. We define output as quality of the service that is provided to the beneficiary. Much in the same way a for-profit organization would use profit as the way to measure success. That quality, we have found, is related to the innovation and collaboration of the organization, the culture of the organization, and the knowledge that the service users have about the services. That in itself is basically on two fronts: staff and volunteers plus funding. That is linked to strategy. That is linked to the way the organization manages its finances, and all of those are linked to the board. So we now have a clear path from board to quality of service that we can plot and define as this is how the board needs to influence what happens. So keep that in mind as I tell you a few examples of organizations that have done just that. Here, for instance, we have the example of Touch. One of the things Touch has done, and you can read about what it says there, but what I really want to highlight is the fact that one of the key aspects that Touch has used in order to grow by 30% in the last year is precisely that they have managed to create and sustain a senior management team that can actually manage that type of growth and that type of change. And they've done it purposefully. They've done it by identifying that before they could grow, they needed to have the right management in place, and that to do that, they did it through human resources practices. I have also the example of Sundak. Sundak received an award recently for best human resources practices in the nonprofit sector. What you need to know is not that they won an award or how great Hai-Ying is as a CEO. What you really need to know is that this is an organization that maybe less than 5 years ago was in the brink of failing, was in the brink of maybe we just don't have enough people, enough resources to keep our programs going. They focused on building capability internally to the point where they have now grown to 4 centers from the one that was there originally, and they're poised to continue to grow in this particular way. Same story. What they have done is a board and that chose new management, and a management that understood that they needed to build their capability in order for the organization to succeed. What do we see then as we try to move in this direction is that the board really needs to play a key role in ensuring that the people practices of the sector are working. In our sector, most of what we do is people. The focus of the board, a large proportion of it needs to be around people. Back to the little map that I gave you. We'll get back to that as well. One of the other things that we found is that as we try to grow and bring more people into the sector, we're faced with a variety of challenges. But one of the challenges that I want to highlight is that we asked people already in the sector, would you recommend the sector as a place for other people to come to work? Any guesses? How many percentage said yes? I won't keep you in suspense. 19%. 19%. That means 4 out of 5 people who are in the sector would tell their friends to not come. You understand the problem? If we can't get our own people to bring friends in, how are we going to succeed in making a point? It is extremely important that every organization not only understand that in order for them to bring people into the sector, their own employees must be ambassadors and advocates for their own organization, but that everyone that is in the sector needs to help us at least create the right frame or the right word that when you come here, yes, you can help give back to society, help humankind, and all of the things that we do for passion, but that we also have a good place to work where people can come to work and feel empowered and feel that they're growing and feel that they're developing and feel the things that every employee wants to feel, that they're learning, that they have a good boss, that the pay is fair. Compassion alone, passion alone, the cause alone will not do it. And I know that we talk about this, and one of the panelists mentioned it earlier today, passion is important. I don't want to discount that. Having heart for the causes is important. Is that the only reason? No. People still have to pay their mortgages. They still have to go and get their kids educated. They still have expenses to pay. Not enough to rely just on passion. So this is a big point that your organization also needs to understand. Every one of your organizations, are we good ambassadors? We as an organization, good ambassadors. Is every one of our employees satisfied to be in our organization enough that they will tell their friends, yes, it's a good place to come and work? So in that respect, another couple of examples. And I wanted to use examples today. Last time when I spoke, I gave a lot of ideas, but this time I thought I would give examples, because what I really would like for each of you to consider is, are you doing something like this in your organization? Is your board doing this? At AWA, for instance, they've done a fantastic job of building a strategic plan. They have a 5-year strategic plan. And again, the point is not, do they have a strategic plan? The point is that because they have a very good strategic plan, they managed a senior leader transition smoothly. And one of the key things about the AWA transition is that you haven't heard any noise about the fact that AWA had a transition. That's a good thing. Not everyone has been equally successful to transition out their senior leadership. AWA has. And part of the reason they've been this successful is because they had a plan to go by, and they had a plan that superseded the idea that we now have to cater to a new CEO and a new way of doing things. Another great example of companies that have done a great deal, or organizations, sorry, that have done a great deal in terms of infrastructure is the Salvation Army. Salvation Army has a very unique job that most of our organizations do not have, an IT director. Most of our organizations don't have that. Now, do you need one? Maybe not. But do you need someone who's looking after your innovation and your technology? Yes, you do. Everybody should be thinking about how is it that we're going to use technology better. Technology 101, if you're not there, but all types of technology. How are we going to innovate? How are we going to improve the way we deliver our services? It could be as easy as figuring out how to use iShine Cloud to do our back office work so that we can free up some of the senior leadership time to do the front office work, or it can be as innovative as how do we use robots in classrooms. All of this can be done, and Salvation Army is already along that way. In the past few years, we've introduced a number of programs. I don't want to go into all of them. I want to emphasize 2 or 3 key ideas that are here. The first one is on the top right, which is the OD journey. Thanks to the top board and to Care and Share, we managed to provide funds to 29 different organizations in the nonprofit sector to start their journey of how to become ideally world-class. Now, this is an interesting idea because we don't often think of our sector as having the possibility of being world-class. So we set our big target for ourselves. And it's a target that we started about 5 years ago when one of our former chairmen of the Human Resource Committee at NCSS gave us a challenge. And he said, you know, we live in a first world society here in Singapore. How come we don't have a first world social service sector? That's the challenge that we continue to try to live up to. And that's what we're trying to do with this OD journey. Now, that doesn't mean that any one of your organizations cannot start the same journey. You all should. It may take you longer. You may not have all the funds that some of these organizations are now going to have, but it doesn't mean that you should wait in the least. It does mean that as a board, you should set that sort of expectation of how do we basically come up to speed and come up to a level that everyone that looks at your organization can say, those people, they're doing a fantastic job. Not just those people, they're doing a good job, a fantastic job. That everyone can say it's done in a way that it's fully in line with the type of Singapore that we want to build. In that respect, then I want to go to the middle top, which is the productivity initiatives that we're working on. Back to the point that we don't have enough resources. If we don't have enough people, what's the next choice? Unfortunately, too many, and I know because I hear them when they come to my office, they still come to me and say, well, what you need to do is find me more social workers or find me more therapists. I've looked on the rocks. I try to see if I can materialize some of them. I try to clone some people. None of that has worked yet. However, I do have this idea, and that's what this initiative is about, that we can use technology better. And technology in the form of robots, artificial intelligence, and things of that sort. Now, that may seem like, well, that's all good and well for the folks in Shenton Way, but not for us. I disagree. I think very much that we, more than others, need to figure out how we're going to get technology to work for us, basically because of the lack of resources. So how is your board encouraging the organization to start to consider technology either at the 101 level or at the AI robotics level? It's a good question that as a board you should be asking yourselves. Then the last one I'm going to mention on this page is the middle bottom, which is the leadership initiatives. We do a variety of things, and we understand that it's not just the board, it's also management. So we've created programs for everybody. And I know I saw some of the questions on Pigeonhole before about should training be mandated. I let bigger folks than me decide whether it should be mandated or not, although they know my opinion. But I do think that whether it's mandated or not, each board member and each chair of each board, and each HR chair of each board, should make it a responsibility of each board member to be educated. Educated in the cause that you work in, educated in how the sector operates, in any way that you think is practical. And in particular, that you have the right type of people. I saw some of the comments around diversity. The comments around diversity, I feel, need to be more focused. And the way I would focus some of them is around the idea that you need diversity in thinking, not just diversity in, say, a religious background. We even have some questions about young and old. It's diversity of thinking, and in particular, that you have the right skills. That if you need legal skills, you have a lawyer. That if you need HR skills, you have an HR person. If you need technology skills on your board, that you have somebody that understands technology. That, to me, is the important part. So from a board standpoint, yes, you should make sure that your management is well trained. And we could spend another one of these presentations talking about just that point. But also, board chairs, committee chairs, make sure that the people that you have on your board, the people you have on your committees, understand how it works. We have lots of tools that we can support you with, and I hope you avail yourselves of them. So I want to go back to this. I want to go back to this because the point I was trying to make is that this idea of service quality, which is the way we define how well an agency operates, goes through a few of the points that we've talked about already. Do you have the right quality of staff and of volunteers through proper HR practices? Do you have right knowledge of service users through training and development opportunities? Do you have the right culture in place? And as a board, you are the stewards of that culture that has a culture of service quality and innovation. Do you actually actively encourage your management team to innovate on what is being done? These are the things that will make a difference, that you invest in people, that you invest in training, that you build a strong organizational culture, and that you find ways for your organization to innovate and collaborate. That's the dream. The dream is that we can create that first world sector that we all want. Thank you.